agenda.
Well, everybody's got the agenda.
I had to put Horizon in there. I was like, oh, originally we were going to just talk about Will and I'm like, oh, Horizon 3 got announced conveniently.
Yeah, and I also added it. I also added in. We'll see on time about all the live service stuff. But
yes, I saw that.
Here we go, folks. Welcome. We're gonna get started right now as we go into the op. Let's go. Whoa. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carpool Gaming's The PlayStation Drive, the only drive on Carpool Gaming. My name is Matt, and I'll be your host for this celebratory event. I'm joined, as always, by the Supreme Court of Canada himself, Mr. Court Lalonde. What's up, Court? Happy 100!
Yeah, happy. But honestly, I'm just honored to be here. Like, we have Ryan here today because you know what? He started this show. Like, it was funny. We were talking about it on the weekend, and I know Ryan was in the chat too. And a certain someone from another podcast was like, "Oh, it's me coming on." I'm like, "No, it's not actually. Like, it's definitely we wanted to do this special. Like, I understand, but Ryan started this show, so it's only fitting that Ryan is here for episode 100.
100%. We needed the weatherman on the moose himself to return to the show as the co-founder, as the one who picked me to join him on the show in the first place, Mr. Ryan Turford. What's up, dude?
Hello, friends. I'm so happy to be back on a podcast for the first time in a long time because, of course, this is the only podcast on the internet, the PlayStation Drive.
You know what? He's learned.
No. So Sean always says, "Hey, why do you keep being like this? We're on the same team." But the problem is, I've been tainted by the PlayStation Drive, by co-founding it. So in a way, this is all my fault that this whole thing is started in the first place. So I've been tainted by that logic. So of course I'm gonna play into it at least a little bit.
Well,
he's not wrong.
Yeah, dude, he was repping it all of Saturday, all on a Carpool Gaming day one. Ryan was all about the PlayStation Drive being the only drive on Carpool Gaming. And
this makes way more sense to me now because as someone that unfortunately couldn't be part of the team on day one, Sean was getting a little rowdy with Ryan on day two. It was pretty good,
dude.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we like to have fun over here at Carpool Gaming. That's what we like to do. And also, again, I don't know if you guys, because I didn't see this in the agenda. Shout out to Carpool Gaming Day this weekend. This weekend was an amazing event that we put on. We announced a whole bunch of different stuff, which, of course, if you want to see our announcements, you can go over to our brand new website, www.carpoolgaming.com, and actually see all of that there. Or you can go check out the live stream on the YouTube page. But we announced so much stuff for Patreon, so many new shows that I'm not going to get into because, again, we spent an entire 2-hour PowerPoint presentation on Saturday talking about that stuff. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out, everyone who subbed on Twitch, because yes, we have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/carpoolgaming live, everyone who, signed up for Patreon, everyone who just hung out over the weekend. It was an amazing weekend, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to spend the weekend with us. So huge thank you to everyone for coming out this weekend. And also huge thank you to all the hosts and everyone behind the scenes at Carpool Gaming as well for putting together an amazing event and working hard, because there is a lot of work that went into this weekend. So huge shout out to the entire team.
100%. Like, we were so happy with how everything came together. And of course, if you want to learn more, make sure you take your Nintendo Switch, open it, turn it on, power it on. You're going to go in there, realize there's no browser. You're going to turn it off, put it back down. You're instead going to go with your Vita. You're going to turn that bad boy on and go to http://www.carpoolgaming.com and go check out all that fun stuff. But without further ado, my friends, we are celebrating episode 100 today, because it is a big old number for us that we're very, very excited. We had to bring the crew together to talk all things PlayStation Drive. But on this week's episode, we're also going to be talking about Jedi Survivor. We're going to be talking about Horizon 3. And we have a whole ton of questions from the community to get through. So strap in, because it is going to be an adventure today. But before we do all that, the garage is dirty. We spent all weekend in there. There's cups strewn about. There's things rolling around. There's dust balls. We got to get that thing cleaned up. So if you are able to donate to us, we are still celebrating. There's much more Carpool to come. So go to patreon.com/carpoolgaming and tip your drivers. And out comes a massive cornucopia of content that only got bigger this weekend. There is so much Patreon exclusive stuff there. So go check it out. I'm going to shout out the the Let's Play series that Seth edited, and it features me, Locklith, and Seth playing, and there's more to come there. So it's just
I can't be remiss if I didn't shout out Ryan's new Pit Stop
Mm-hmm,
Retro Gaming. It is something that I've been talking to Ryan about for a long time, and I know he's the perfect, and it's unbelievable. Like the Sega Channel thing, I learned from it, and I thought it was awesome. As someone who grew up in that generation, it was just like, this was here so ahead of its time. So I would suggest everybody go to YouTube right now. Go check out. He did one on American Gladiators. He did one on the Sega Channel. It's awesome.
They are so good. So make sure you go check and support. If you're watching us live right now on youtube.com/Carpool Gaming, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment. The comments help us grow and reach more people the world over. Or if you're listening to us on your podcast service of choice, please hit us with that 5-star review, and I promise we will check it. But Court, before we get much deeper into this, you and I had a little chat. We had a little discussion, some would say, about what's a good way to celebrate episode 100. And I think you and I have landed on a pretty cool little giveaway that let's spoil right now, Court. What are we going to be doing?
We are going to be giving away a copy of Final Fantasy 16, a game that I'm actually going to be playing. We are going to be doing that based on just going into our Twitter, going into our comments, letting us know that you have put either a 5-star review or, you know what, putting a review, period, on iTunes, or showing us that you've put a review on Spotify, and just letting us know. It's going to be going on until pretty much, I guess, a week before the release, and we'll announce the winner. But Matt and I really are excited about this game. I can't even believe that I'm excited about a Final Fantasy game. So yeah, I'm really excited to jump into this game. We know the community is, so we felt the best way to give back to everybody that has supported us over the years is to give away a copy of this game. So if you've already dropped a review or done all that, just hit us up, show us that you've done it, and you're entered.
Exactly. So we will have a tweet or post go live later today. Hop onto that one, leave those reviews, send us that screenshot. If you've already done it, again, just send the screenshot there so we have all of them in one place for us to refer back to later. Because yes, Final Fantasy 16, we are giving away a copy on PS5. So please be excited, because we sure are. But without further ado, my friends, we need to chat. We need to talk, because now that we have 3 of us together, once again, a trifecta of sound, of beauty, of color. I want to know what's been on your playlist, Ryan.
Well, I will say
that made sense, because if you talk to mine, it leads into the topic, obviously. Yes.
It is see, Matt's pretty smart. He's pretty good at this.
He's learned from Ryan.
I will say my playlist very short this week, and a lot of that just has to do with Carpool Gaming this week. They kind of took up like most of my time this week, so I'm still playing Final Fantasy II in the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters.
Nice.
I platinumed Final Fantasy 1 last week, and I'm going for the platinum in Final Fantasy 2 in the Pixel Remaster. In fact, my goal, I talked about this on the Xbox Drive, but my goal is to platinum all 6 Final Fantasy games in the Pixel Remasters.
And I'd be remiss to ask, because I know Drellesh and Nagachaka would like to know, how is the trophy list, Ryan?
So the trophy list isn't actually that bad. It seems grindy when you first look at it, but the game actually has a lot of great in-game options, like the ability to boost XP or gold intake to reduce all the grindiness that goes into those trophies. So you can adjust it however you want. Like what I'm basically doing is going through the game like normal, and then when I'm getting to the end game portion before I go to the final dungeon, I then max all that out, so then I can get all the grindy, get this much gold and get all your characters to level 99 kind of thing. So it's out of the way. So then when I go to the final boss, I can, just rest easy that the platinum trophy will be there when I get there. The only trophy I would watch out for is the trophy for killing, fighting every single monster in each game, because some of the monster encounters are very random. Like in Final Fantasy 1, there was one monster encounter where you had to run back and forth on this one bridge, where the encounter is 1 in every 64 encounters. So you had to basically run like this back and forth I ran back and forth for like an hour and a half until this enemy finally spawned.
I love RPGs, man. That's so good. That's awesome, dude. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I think it's definitely on my list for this summer. I've never played a lot of the classics, and I feel like this is a great opportunity too. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm going to put set court up for last because, again, it's going to lead into our first topic. So I'll hop on over here next. I am continuing my journey through the Burning Shores. The DLC continues to be awesome. I love the the interactions between Seika and Aloy. I feel like the way that they've been written, I think, is probably the best that we've seen them so far.
The full game was like that.
Exactly. It's just nailing it. I will say that the difficulty spikes are real. I'm just playing it on like the standard difficulty, and like coming back to that game, the first, like, slight spoiler for Burning Shores, but when you come across that giant frog for the first time, I had my stuff run back and forth until like it took me a couple deaths to like refamiliarize myself with all my weapons and be like, right, this is what I was doing, this is how I was handling it. But then it got to the point where I was like, I'm rolling through it now. But yeah, it's really, really good. It is beautiful. I will say that the fundamental issue that I have with Horizon on a whole, obviously, is still very much on display here. I feel like a lot of the climbing and a lot of the platforming elements just don't work entirely well. Like, I find Aloy either completely misses the jump or misses the grab on things that looked like they should have happened. But the game continues to be great. The fights are still like the highlight for me. That combat is just really, really satisfying once it all clicks. And yeah, Seika is awesome in combat. She actually does stuff. She'll tie stuff down. She'll set you up. So I'm excited to keep going with it. I'm probably about halfway through the main storyline. So I'm probably going to finish that up in the next couple days. But really, really enjoying it. Continuing to work my way through it. And yeah, that game is just staggeringly beautiful. Like, I cannot get over how good that game looks. And of course, now that Court and I, we picked up those LG C2s, this is the best TV I've ever had. And now actually seeing what that game looks like, what it was supposed to look like when I initially played it, I was like, God damn, this is one pretty looking game.
And it's interesting you say that because it'll lead into the game that I was playing,
only
gripe, which is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I have only started playing this as of yesterday. I started playing, and the team over at Carpool could notice that I was online, so I had to jump in. I stopped playing, and I came in and played Fall Guys, where Kevin just dominated. By the way, honestly handed us our lunch. So it is what it is, but I can't put this game down. I understand the gripes. Like I said, the one thing I noticed right away was the NPCs. Because I just played Burning Shores, I was like, I wish every game moving forward could do their NPC modeling like they do in Burning Shores, how lifelike, how good it looks, how the animations look on the faces, and so on and so forth. I think it's the pinnacle of what an NPC should look like in a video game when you play any of the newest Horizon Burning Shores DLC. But I'm having way too much fun with this game. I did originally play it on performance mode. Mm-hmm. I didn't have all the hiccups and everything that was going on. I did see some draw distance issues when I was playing on performance. And when you walk up to the water, the frame rates drop. Mm-hmm. But it's not as noticeable as something like when I was playing Gotham Knights, where that game there, as much as I love Batman, I couldn't get over and I couldn't get into the game. Mm-hmm. So I will say I have a Star Wars bias. I have a DC bias, but in Gotham Knights, my bias didn't win over. I would say with Star Wars, I have moved it to the quality mode. So that's playing at a lock 30 frames per second.
Okay.
The game still runs beautifully. Like, the combat isn't affected. There's a lot of accessibilities you can change and to make the game even easier. So someone like myself, the trophy list isn't bad at all. There's not many grindy trophies. There's no difficulty trophies whatsoever. So the platinum is very obtainable. There is a lot to do in this world. I've spoke to other people that are playing and they had the difficulties all the way up. So the combat is very difficult. But for me, it's not that difficult playing on story mode. But I will say the game actually does even look good. Okay. Like, I'm very confused by the masses of what I see on social media compared to what I'm playing. So it's a stark difference for me.
I will say, I think a lot of that has to do with I think probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest market for this game, which is PC players. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the game's really affected the most. So I think that's where you're seeing the biggest outcry is the Steam version of the game, which is why it's being kind of review bombed on Steam like it's nobody's business. But I'm interested to see how the new patch is, because there is a new patch out today. Again, sorry.
Yeah, for PC. Today for PC and tomorrow for console. I will also say a lot of the people that had extremely bad bugs were reviewing the game.
Yeah.
So the day one patch, which was not small, I bought this game. I wasn't provided a code. I bought this on day one. I didn't have those issues. Like, I've seen people that we know, they're playing it on Xbox and bosses would just disappear and stuff like that would happen while they're playing. I didn't have any of those issues. So I totally get it. It was a quick cycle on this game, like 4 years. That's pretty quick to make a game, right? But Respawn is one of the best out there. The game is beautiful. They have amazing Easter eggs. I would say this: if you love Star Wars and you like the world of Star Wars and you really like the last one, you're going to love this game. Like, it's just fun. Like, it is literally on my screen beside me right here. And every minute I'm not working and I have like a second, I play it for a bit. So, it's so much fun.
Let me ask you this then. Are you playing on the performance or the quality mode?
I'm playing on quality mode right now.
And
I moved it off performance because when you get near any sections in water, the game bogs down a bit.
So this quality is at 30 or 60 frames?
Locked for 30 frames.
Locked 30 frames, 4K. And then performance is what gets you up to 60. Gotcha.
Correct.
Yeah, because like I think again, like I feel like everybody's singing the praises of how good this game is. It's just the performance is the massive problem here. I want to shout out a couple members of the Discord who also gave their their thoughts as to how the game's been going for them. Hambo Johnny says he sunk over 18 hours in Jedi Survivor over the weekend on PS5. Played mostly on performance, but sometime on quality. Definitely some sections of frame drops, but it was still really smooth. Oddly, it was more during the traversal sections than the combat. And he's had one crash so far. And Bowsah said that they put in a few hours in over the weekend playing on quality, less issues. Biggest frame drops happen when there's water on screen. Most of the time, it's fine. So it does seem that at least on PS5, playing in quality mode, it is a relatively stable experience. I'm definitely going to be picking it up as well in the near future because it's just I cannot wait. And yeah, there's supposed to be huge patches incoming. So I'm really, really excited for this game, Court. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I'm glad that it's living up to the hype that you had for it because, of course, this is one of your most anticipated games this year.
100%.
So I'm glad that it's sticking the landing for you. That makes me really excited to hear because also I'm a huge Star Wars fan and I can't wait.
Yeah, and I will say this because I think I'd be remiss if I didn't. It's very expensive here in Canada. This game is not cheap, and I totally get it. It's an EA game. You know what? It's gonna go on sale. So there's Zelda's coming out if you're looking forward to that. Redfall is coming out tomorrow, and supposedly not so good. But there's a lot of games to play right now. Like even myself, I look at them like, Jesus, I'm only gonna play Jedi right now until anything else happens, and I'm just gonna. I don't know how people controversial through all this, but this game, a lot like Ubisoft, EA puts their games on sale rather quickly after launch. Yeah. So I would say for our Canadian audience out there, if you're playing something else right now and you don't need to jump into this right now, wait for it to go on sale.
Like this guy, because I'm going to chime in and just quickly say that I definitely decided. I actually decided, even looking at the release calendar before this game came out, that this is going to be a wait game for me. Like I'm not going to pick this one up right away for that reason, because I mean, games are more expensive now, and I do have to make sure to keep an eye on things. Plus I am playing other stuff. I am playing Redfall, of course, for Xbox Drive starting tonight, so I'm excited to at least try that out for myself, as well as I'm still working through Final Fantasy, and that's going to kind of take me to Zelda. And by the time this game goes on sale, like over the summer or later in the year, like all the patches should hopefully be out by then, and then I can hopefully get the best experience possible and enjoy what sounds like is a really awesome game. So I am really excited to play it eventually, kind of when the dust settles on it at this point. But it sounds like it's pretty awesome from everything I've heard. So I'm excited to play it eventually. But yeah, it's just there. It's kind of on the back burner with Zelda coming and everything else for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna rip through Resident Evil 4 remake first, and then get to Jedi Survivor because I want to do my GameStop turnaround. But without further ado, my friends, we have some news stories to hit on our way to an absolute mountain of fantastic community questions. So let's transition over to our first story, which comes from Guerrilla Games themselves. That's right. We got basically an announcement talking about how the Our studio director and executive producer, Angie Smets, is starting a new role as head of development strategy at PlayStation Studios. First off, huge congratulations to them. That's awesome. A lot of Guerrilla seems to be going over to PlayStation proper, so good for them. But in this, we got a comment that said, we have full confidence in our new leadership as they steer Guerrilla towards a bright future, expanding the world of Horizon with Aloy's next adventure and our exciting online project. Mikkel van der Leeuw, I apologize if I may have messed up your name, technical director, will be focusing on the future technology and strategy for the Decima engine. So this basically got confirmation that we have Horizon 3 on the way alongside the multiplayer game that we knew existed. Let me ask you this, Court. I'm going to throw to you first. What do you want out of Horizon 3 that we haven't already seen in Forbidden West or Burning Shores or even Call of the Mountain? What do you want out of it to make Horizon 3 the best out of the bunch?
I want new melee weapons.
Okay.
So I don't want to just have the staff. So I want maybe an upgrade. Maybe, hey, just like inspiration from the game I'm playing right now. Maybe I can break the staff in half and it becomes 2 becomes 1, right? Make it little something different. Now, you're not making them swords, but like having them so you could use it for traversal to climb up sides of the mountain, all that kind of stuff. But I want more of what they gave us in Burning Shores with regards to the co-op combat, that you're having other characters that support you throughout missions, or maybe having a character support you throughout majority of the game. I thought they did a very good job in Burning Shores, and I would like them to do more with that, to be totally honest. And I would like Aloy to maybe go into space. You know, maybe give me something different. Give me something different with her. Okay. Like we've done California, we've done the whole West Coast. All right. If you're going to maybe crescendo this story, because Sony does do a very good job on their first party, like, 3 or 4 games we're going to get out of that, and that's the story, and I think that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into space, because we know that's where they kept trying to go, all the characters. Spoilers, all the bad guys, they're all trying to get off the Earth, right? So
nice. Okay. I think for me, what I kind of want to see most out of Horizon 3 is I want Breath of the Wild in terms of its traversal. I want to be able to move better around the map. I want to get stuck less. I've had multiple situations so far in Burning Shores where I get knocked off a section and get stuck in the geometry. I just want things to be a little bit more freeform in terms of how you move through it. But Ryan, I need to ask you this, because I would kind of go on to say that you're our resident MMO expert. What do you want to see out of what will be the Horizon MMO to make this thing something awesome?
Yeah, I don't even really know to be honest, I don't even know how they're even going to approach a Horizon MMO. That would be so weird. I mean, more than anything, what it really needs to focus on is making sure that, the end game's really fun and there's a lot of stuff to do. Even like it's great and all that to have like a good leveling process and of course you want to make sure that that's like a smooth process going through that experience, but you want to make sure that there's a ton of things to do in the game. More than anything, I think that it just needs to be packed with content in order to keep players around, because that's where a lot of the failings of a lot of these games come from. Where a lot of times, a lot of the end game content is added later, but there isn't enough stuff to play, when the game first comes out, and people just fall off of it and don't come back to it. So I think that's more than anything what I hope they focus on is making sure there's like big encounters, like big raid bosses and things to kill at the end, or like crazy hunts with different robot dinosaurs and making sure they're interesting, but also providing a bunch of different side activities, like maybe you could grow your own garden, or go like have a pet collection or something like that. Like there's got to be more to it than just what you get in the Horizon single player experiences with something like an MMO, because it is such a very different experience, and you want to appeal to a bunch of different types of players as well, or make sure that that one of the ways you keep MMO players around is by giving them other options besides just the standard quest system that you have in a lot of other games. So that's why why you see MMOs do the whole hey, can have an island where all my pets hang out, or I can collect mounts and I have this mount collection. Like there have to be other incentives besides just the combat to keep players around.
Oh, now I really want to have my own little like farm of a bunch of different like mini robot dinos that I take care of and stuff. Ryan, you're selling me on this the more that you talk about it. Now I'm going to be nothing but disappointed if it isn't exactly what you just said. Let's keep this train.
Expectations
Expectations are high. Let's keep this train rolling, my friends, to A story from VGC written by Tom Ivan, as Sony has confirmed May 2023's PlayStation Plus Essential games. We're getting Grid Legends, Chivalry 2, and Descenders that will be available. Grid Legends will be PS5 and PS4. Chivalry 2, both PS5 and PS4. And Defenders would be the PS4 versions of the game. Ryan, how do you feel about PlayStation Plus Essential in May?
Hey, it's fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that, I'm just going to go in and claim all these games and I'll have them around forever, but I don't ever see myself playing these. But I also hear good things about Grid Legends as far as a racing game. So, if you're a racing fan, you haven't checked it out, maybe this is the time to do that. Whereas Chivalry 2 and Descenders, I haven't really heard much about them beyond what I've kind of seen in reviews and stuff like that. So I'm personally not interested in it, but I'm glad they're there. I'm glad that they're there for free. So there you go. That's kind of my thoughts on that.
Court, what do you think?
I'm right there with Ryan. None of these games are like, hey, you come play me right now, but I'm going to put it in my cart. Going to make sure it's in my library. And you know what? One day, probably, if any of them, I would probably try Grid Legends. But as of right now, too much on my plate. It's just meh. And you know what? Maybe it's smart that, last couple months, they've given us some stuff we want to play right away. And this month, they're like, hey, here's a couple of games. We know you're going to be playing a ton of other different stuff right now. Just play this when you have a chance.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is an okay month. Not really one that I think speaks to us. I have heard great things about Chivalry 2, so that might be one I actually check out when I have some downtime. Not one that I'll rush to. But yeah, I think it's a solid month. People online seem to be pretty happy with it. So it seems like this is one of those, we're on wait and see mode until the next big thing.
I mean, at this point, it's better than games with gold. And as long as they hit that standard, then I think we're okay.
Yeah, that's a very low bar.
Yeah.
To have to, get
that's what I mean.
than.
As long as they're better than that, that's all that matters.
That's true. Yeah, they could give us like Sly Cooper 1 and that's it. And I still think might be a better month than most games with
Although I
gold.
will say on Games with Gold this month, there is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, and that game's awesome.
Okay, that game is awesome. Okay, I'm with you
There
there.
is that.
Twisted Metal over on VGC, written by Tom Ivan, gets its TV show first teaser trailer coming to Peacock this July in the US. Sony has released the first teaser trailer for the Twisted Metal TV series. It stars Anthony Mackie, Will Arnett, Samoa Joe, Thomas Hayden Church, Stephanie Beatrice, and Nev Campbell. We just got a short little thing where we see Anthony Mackie's character. He's in the car, he shoots some stuff, listens to some music, and that's pretty much it. But you know what, guys? I'm surprisingly kind of into the little taste of what we saw. It doesn't seem like it's taking itself too seriously. Sweet Tooth looks cool. Like, from the vibe check from that little bit that we got, I'm more curious now than I ever was before. Court, what about you?
Anthony Mackie's a phenomenal actor, so I'm going to check it out. But I have zero, Twisted Metal was one of my favorites. I have nothing for the franchise. Like, that's my issue. And as someone that is not, it looks a little Fast and Furious for me. And it's conveniently, Ryan and I talked about that that movie, and Kevin this weekend. It doesn't look like it's up my alley at all, but I'm going to check it out.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how this actually pans out because Twisted Metal is not the game with the big story mode or anything like that. Like, it's not like The Last of Us where there's not this big, story that is there. Like, there's a story in Twisted Metal, but I mean, it is what it is kind of thing. So I'm interested to see how they actually adapt this to a TV show. But I will say, like, the from the trailer we saw, like, they really nailed the look and feel of the cars themselves. So I like the approach to detail that they have on the vehicles. So I really just hope that this is just a fun and entertaining TV show. It doesn't need to be super serious anyways. And I love the little tease of Sweet Tooth at the end as well. Like, that was just really cool, like getting the ice cream truck at the end. So I'm excited to watch it and see how this pans out. Also, I know you don't have it listed, Matt, but they actually just announced and did little 15-second tease about the Gran Turismo trailer for the Gran Turismo movie.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Coming tomorrow, apparently.
Oh, I gotta watch that. See, I am excited about that one. I love that movie Ford versus Ferrari, and supposedly it's gonna have some sort of like the same little vibes of the racing stuff, the cinematics on it. Oh, so I'm a little bit excited about it.
Let's go live right now, and I'm gonna try and pull this up while you guys are talking.
Yeah, because like this, it's got like the Gran Turismo sound effects and everything, and it's got some some racers talking about how they're gonna be awesome, and then some cars just driving on a racetrack, which is kind of what you'd expect in a Gran Turismo movie, which actually, again, like, I actually think that might actually be a pretty good movie too. So I'm actually probably more, like Court. I'm actually probably more excited for Gran Turismo because I actually think it has the most potential for being awesome. But I also like, cheesy horror movies too. Like that's definitely a Ryan Turford thing, which is part of the thing, part of the reason why I actually think I'll probably really like Twisted Metal as well.
Yeah,
as long as it's good.
As long as it's a dumb, fun ride and the CGI looks all right, I'm pretty much in. I'm excited to check it out. And yeah, couldn't find the Gran Turismo sneak peek, but we'll definitely talk about that next week. So get stoked. Moving on to our next story from Tom Ivan, once again over at VGC. Sony says PS5 can break the company's annual console sales record this fiscal year. It's targeting 25 million PS5 shipments, which would surpass a 25-year-old PS1 record. The company intends to ship 25 million PS5 consoles during financial year 2023, ending March 31st, 2024. If achieved, it would beat this record that was set by PlayStation when they shipped 22.6 million units in fiscal year 98. So PS5 continuing to sell strong. I think we're probably going to just see this continue even more so. They know what they have coming this year. As long as they can ship these things, I'm sure they're going to sell. Court, how you feeling about them aiming for this? Are they going to hit it?
I think they are, and I'm actually still shocked I can see PS5s in the wild and I see Xbox Series X's in the wild. I started seeing the X's before I saw the PS5s, and I find my local Walmart, you can't find those God of War edition ones where I live, and I live in Northern Ontario. They're gone again. So it's back to having nothing on the shelves. We do know that we're going to be getting a Final Fantasy 16 one, but we're not going to get the Japanese version, which is not fair because it's amazing and it's got the whole awesome.
Well, no, hold on.
We are getting it.
It's not the console itself that's like that. It's you buy the faceplate separately.
Yes, no, I get that, but we won't have that here.
Yeah, that's true. But you always import it.
As of right now, we won't have it. It looks amazing. Even the controller looks pretty cool.
Controller looks dope.
But there will be a bundle for Final Fantasy 16 that's going to be out in the wild. And I do think the way that they've changed Final Fantasy 16, it's going to help sell consoles. Because I keep thinking in my head, okay, everybody that wanted one of these has already got one. And I still, to this day, talk to friends who's like, oh, I still haven't bought a PS5. Can you get those yet? I'm like, actually, you can. And they're like, really? They're like, my kid's been wanting one forever, or I've been wanting one forever. I just haven't bought them one. And I'm like, oh, so people still have that mindset that you can't get this thing and you can actually go out and get them. I'm also still shocked that many people want these things still. Like, it still boggles my mind that this thing will sell, and it seems to continue to sell like gangbusters. Like, we talk a lot about the Activision Blizzard deal. Well, actually, we don't. And actually, Carpool really doesn't. But
nope.
They really talk about, PlayStation being the market leader. They're the market leader already for this new console generation, and it's not even it was like a closer margin, but I truly feel that the gap has been it's become a lot bigger in the last year. I think unfortunately Xbox, it's a great console, I love it, but they just don't have the games, and Sony continues to just put them out. Heck, they have a DLC that's better than half the games that Xbox has released first party.
Well, it's interesting that you say that too, because Final Fantasy 16 is really and truly like our first PS5 only exclusive that a lot of people are very, very excited about. I think Forspoken was meant to be that, and that was obviously DOA when that came out earlier this year. So, Ryan, let me ask you this. With Final Fantasy 16, now that we have, a different combat system, we have things looking a little bit more generally acceptable for the general audience. Is this thing going to move consoles?
Yes. I mean, to be fair, I actually think that you throw Final Fantasy 16 on there and it's more of a traditional Final Fantasy turn-based game, it would sell consoles, but not as many, because it definitely brings in people like Court or a bunch of people who just aren't into Final Fantasy are going to be into this type of game. If you're into Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, like, this is going to be your game. Like, I think you're going to really enjoy this. So yes, absolutely. I think that this was kind of, the plan that Sony had probably from the first time they saw this game was to kind of, that's why they signed that exclusivity deal with Square and kind of put all these marketing deals behind it. So yes, absolutely. It's going to be huge this summer. Honestly, Final Fantasy 15 or 16, despite the fact that it's only on PlayStation 5, it's going to be one of the best-selling games this year, period, full stop, by the end of the year. because Final Fantasy as a brand is so popular already. Combined with how many more people you're going to get into this because of the nature of this game being much more appealing to people who aren't into Final Fantasy normally. Like, I just think this is a slam dunk all around. And it's, I think it's a little unfair to maybe say that about Forspoken, kind of trying to take up that mantle, because I don't think it ever was ever meant to be that way, or was ever going to be that game. Also, I also kind of like that game a little bit.
And you also got to put in the fact that even if they're going to get a huge number and a huge spike in Final Fantasy 16, and then they're going to round off September and be like, oh, P.S., we have Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just what we know about. If there's anything still left that we don't know, that, you know, we'll find out about the show in the showcase, they could have a huge back half of the year, because Final Fantasy 16 leads us down that path. But we will keep you all posted. We have one last story to get to. Coming from IGN, written by George Yang, PlayStation's 10 live service games will be quote-unquote different genres and for different audiences. PlayStation says that its 10 live service games in development will be in different genres and for different audiences. Furthermore, PlayStation is aware of the fierce competition between live service games and the time investment they take from players. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulse said, "There is a risk when we talk about live service in generic terms, as if it is a single genre or even a single business model. PlayStation Studios are making a variety of games that could be referred to as quote-unquote live services, targeting different genres, different release schedules, and of course, different scales. We are creating games for different audiences, and I take confidence from our track record in creating worlds and stories that PlayStation fans love." Ryan, we've heard about this before. You and I have spoken about this back when PlayStation Drive was ours, and Court and I have talked about it at length. So what I want to know is, what could PlayStation Studios do to bring you in to a live service game? What would be the Ryan Turford PlayStation live service game that would have you in to possibly even half rival Final Fantasy 14?
Honestly, that's such a tough question to answer, because, you know, as you kind of alluded to, Matt, it is because I'm so heavily invested in Final Fantasy 14, and I am a little bit invested in World of Warcraft still. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where I don't know what they could possibly do to pull me out of that. Like, even if they came out with the best live service game out there, I'm looking for that. Like, when I look at a live service game, I'm looking for like an RPG of some kind.
Is there what franchise? I follow up. What franchise Sony have? Like, does SOCOM move the needle? Like,
there isn't one
what could
that
move
would
the
pull me
needle
away. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of the biggest hurdle for someone like me in particular, where it's just there isn't really a franchise that Sony currently has that could pull me away for it. In fact, it's actually more likely that a new IP is actually the thing that would want to pull me over, because I actually feel like a lot of the Sony's IPs that they have currently, I think would actually work better as non-live service games anyways, and I would actually be more excited for them as non-live service games. Like, as an example, if Resistance were to come back.
Yeah, that's what I was
it
thinking
had
they could
some
use.
multiplayer modes, I think, and you could make a Resistance live service game that might actually be pretty fun. I personally would be way more excited for that, a new Resistance game, if it was a single player focused game with a multiplayer mode, not unlike something like Call of Duty. Same thing with something like Infamous, which I think would actually probably make a great live service game where you make your own superhero with your own superpower.
Oh, okay, Ryan, don't do this to me. I just want that game.
That sounds cool, but I honestly, personally, would be more excited for a single player, open world, brand new, like Infamous 4 or Infamous Reboot instead. So, I mean, that's why I think it's so hard to pull things over. And it's really like, it's part of the reasons why there hasn't been another, games as service game, because we've had a ton of games as service games come out since Final Fantasy 14 launched, but none of them have really grabbed me where it's not even just it's not because Final Fantasy 14 is Final Fantasy. Like, that's not the IP that keeps me there. It's all the other little things that Final Fantasy 14 has done, and it's kind of layered on top of each other, is what keeps me there. And what, like, the story has kept me invested the entire time. Like, I always want to see what's coming next with each new expansion. Come on with everything else that you do in the game. Kind of like, it's all that content is layered on top of each other so well that it's really hard for another live service game for me to imagine pulling me away from that, or wanting me to invest the time into it that I would normally invest in Final Fantasy 14.
Fair enough. Court, I'm going to ask you then, because we've talked at length about, obviously we know that they need shooters. We know that they need some sort of battle royale. We've talked about, the classic MMO style, even something like Horizon. Now, I'm going to ask you in Nagachaka style, okay? What PlayStation game or PlayStation property would get you into live service, and why would it be a PlayStation Home Team Asobi fusion that is basically Disney's Dreamlight Valley, but with PlayStation characters?
Well, that's 100% gonna that is a game that would get me, and Matt just like wrote it all out there for me. For me, that is a game that gets me in. We have a dream here at the PlayStation Drive that we will get this game, and that each game in the PlayStation universe is a land that you travel to, and that's what you do with the bot. So 100%, this is what we want. I think it writes itself. But we'll see what they do with it. But that is a game that gets me in. I was also a fan of the Killzone franchise. So if they, after playing Burning Shores, I am 100% thinking they're going to announce some sort of game in the Killzone universe after, I don't know. I think that's the most amount of Easter eggs I've ever seen about a former franchise in a video game. Like, they literally throw Killzone at you every 2 seconds in that game. It's like, hey, look at that truck over there. Oops, that's a truck from Killzone. Hey, look at that spaceship. That fighter jet that's crashed over there in the corner from the military. Oh, wait a minute, that's from Killzone. Oh, there's a gun over there. Oh, that gun's from Kill. Like, it was just like, okay, are you bringing out a Killzone or what?
Guys, remember Killzone?
Yeah, like seriously, that's what I felt they were doing the whole time you played that game. So for me, yes, Team Asobi, please. Just make that game.
Seriously, I'd be so in on that. I'm really curious to see what they have in store. I'm glad that they're already aware of the battle that they have, because yes, 10 live service games over the course of that they forecasted like 3 years. All of them are going to have to be pretty wildly different for any of those to succeed in any way, stretch, or form. So I'm glad that they're aware of it. I'm glad that they're being cognizant of it. And I hope that means that maybe some of these will stick the landing in a way that we're not expecting. But guys, we had an extra segment planned that I think we're going to put on the back burner for now, just because we have so many community questions.
Seriously.
And I'd rather spend some time there. And if we have time, we'll come back around, or we'll save that for another episode entirely. But folks, we are on episode 100. We gave you much more time to ask those questions, and boy, howdy, did you all deliver. Thank you so much for sending your questions in. If you want your questions on the show, head to our free Discord. It is in the show notes. Drop us a question in the PlayStation Drive, or comment on the Twitter post that goes live each and every week. Just like Stingray X did, who asks, what made you fall in love with PlayStation? Take care. Ryan, what made you fall in love with PlayStation?
I mean, it was RPGs, of course. Big surprise to anyone in the chat. It was RPGs all along that were the secret weapon to get Ryan into PlayStation. I mean, the reason I got into PlayStation in the first place was because when I was looking because I was playing a lot of PC games in the late 90s, and I wanted to get back into console gaming because we hadn't played consoles in a while. And so I was looking at N64 or PlayStation 1, but, when I looked at, but I was also really into RPGs at the time, after playing a bunch on Sega CD and Sega Genesis. So I really, when I saw Lunar from the Sega CD got a remake on PS1, I, of course, got my PlayStation 1 right away. And I mean, I've kind of been in love with PlayStation ever since that point. Yes, I will obviously say that, and preface the fact that Xbox is still my kind of predominant console for, third-party releases or anything that comes to Xbox. And that a lot of that just has to do with the original Xbox era really kind of winning me over. Mm-hmm. I mean, PlayStation is actually, even though, Xbox is my predominant console and the place where I prefer to play games, PlayStation is actually my most played console, especially this generation, because of the fact that, so many of the games that I like to play are only on PlayStation. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what made me fall in love with PlayStation in the first place. Is just they like PlayStation just has the games that appeal to Ryan, like the Japanese RPGs, or any other things that we only get on PlayStation. So that's kind of where my love for PlayStation came from.
Heck yeah, dude. What about you?
NHL 98.
Nice.
This sounds weird, but for me, I fell in love with the EA Sports NHL games on the Sega Genesis. It was the only reason I had the console, just to play that game. And then my brother, who had a Super Nintendo, we started playing it there. I then had a buddy that bought NHL 98 because he had a PlayStation 1. And at the time, like, I don't need this console. And I got to play the game and see the difference of a game that's on a CD-ROM versus a game that's on a cartridge, graphics-wise. And within 2 weeks, I had saved enough money that my parents paid the rest. And it was the very first console I personally ever bought in my life was the PS1. I bought it at Electronics Boutique in the Pickering Town Center.
Nice.
I still remember walking in, grabbing that, and grabbing a copy of NHL 98, and then nonstop playing it. And then a game, I believe it was called International Super Soccer. You could first time ever being able to use the DualShock. Spyro the Dragon came out and you could get DualShock capabilities, but then it was the first sports game, I believe, was International Super Soccer. And I had the dual controllers, the DualSense for the first time, and I just couldn't go back. Like, it was pretty much, I was PS1, PS2. I didn't buy any other consoles. Nothing else happened until the Xbox, the OG Xbox. I picked one of those, and that was the first time where the generation started where I was buying 2 consoles until the launch of the PlayStation 3, and I didn't have a mortgage payment to get one. But yeah, the PS1, NHL 98, like, that was the thing for me. And that got me into a lot of more different games. Game like Spyro, just because I wanted the try out the DualShock for the very first time, is the reason I played that game. And then I was like, oh my God, I really like Spyro the Dragon. And then it just went from there.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like, for me, like, the original PlayStation, I remember getting it for Christmas for my parents, and they got me like Hercules and Crash with it. And like, I was just in. Like, I remember the first game that I like had cognizant memories of being excited about and looking forward to its release was Crash 2. I remember seeing the commercials. I remember being like, Dad, is it out yet? When is that game coming? I need it now. And it's been PlayStation ever since. And I don't know, it's always been my kind of home since my parents kind of put me in there, and I just loved being there. Let's go on to our next question from Darth Stridius, who asks, what were some of your PlayStation memories growing up, Ryan? What was a PlayStation memory for you?
So this one's going to be tough for both me and I think for Court as well, because we're in the age group where neither of us really grew up with PlayStation, because PlayStation wasn't really around when we were kids. Like, I was, I got my PlayStation 1 when I was in high school, but it was towards the tail end of high school. Like,
yeah, I was 19 in 1998, people. 19.
Yeah, I was almost in college when I got my PlayStation. So I'm just trying to think of very special movies. I mean, obviously the first one was just spending just hours and hours and hours playing, like binging through Final Fantasy VII. I got it while we were on kind of a road trip through Texas, and we stopped in at a local Best Buy, and we saw it on the shelf there for $20, and I was like, oh, I mean, I've heard a lot about this game. I'm gonna pick it up, and I brought it home, and I remember one day just playing it for like 16 hours straight because I couldn't put that game down. I was so all in on Final Fantasy VII. I couldn't believe it. But I think a lot of my biggest PlayStation memories actually are probably revolve around the PlayStation 3 era. Right. Waiting outside on a cold winter night, in November of 2006, waiting to go spend, so much money on the PlayStation 3 console with the Spider-Man font on it and everything. To getting it home and being like, hey, not a lot of these launch games are very good, but I like Resistance. So at least I had that silver lining going for me. And then just a lot of the single player games on PS3 just really kind of solidified PlayStation for me as a console that I always had to make sure I had a PlayStation from that point. So yeah, what about you, Court?
PlayStation 3. I had the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, but I think it was the PlayStation 3 where it almost got me back into video games. I had the Xbox 360 and I had 3 red rings of death in a row. Love the console. Because at the time when the PlayStation 3 came out, I was living, downtown Toronto, and money wasn't exactly, flying into my wallet. So the Xbox 360 was the more affordable, but it was the PlayStation 3 which I finally got, and I got it at the end of the life cycle, and I got it for like $80 off a buddy of mine. It was the skinny version.
Nice.
And I got Uncharted 3 just came out. So I had Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, Infamous 1 and 2, and I sat there for like 2 months and I just played these games and I never looked back because I was just like, oh my God, where have they all been? And then I played BioShock for the first time. That was on my PlayStation 3. It was just so many good franchises came in that era of video games, and so many of them I associate with PlayStation.
Yeah, for me, I think I remember a lot. Because I was like, I don't know, 7 or something when that thing came out, or if not earlier. And I just remember, like, especially, you know, my family at the time, you know, money was tight for us growing up. I remember my dad had a buddy at work who would rip games, and we got the little chip installed on our PS1. So I just remember him, like, sometimes randomly coming home with like a stack of like 3 or 4 games that he got for, like, you know, whatever, however much he spent. And I'm just be like, what is all this? I don't care. I'm playing all of it. And I remember getting like, you know, Digimon World 1 and 2, and like just so much just goodness. But I just had this like stack of all these, like, you know, just DVDs just from ripped games, and I always loved that. And then I remember grabbing the PS4. That was the first one that I kind of got on my own. Drove through a blizzard all the way from London to Stratford over an hour, because they had one left and they were willing to hold it for me, and I got there 1 minute before it closed. So shout out to the Stratford EB Games, because that guy was the best. Drellesh has a whole bunch of questions for us. So to celebrate episode 100, first question, I'm going to kind of toss these questions back and forth here in the interest of time. And because, again, we have a bunch more to get through. I'm going to ask you both this one first, then, actually. Ryan, what was one of your most memorable PlayStation Drive episodes since starting the show?
The first time we talked about Blue Box, and when we got
Dude!
when the abandoned train started, that was when, like, that's when the show ran off the rails. That's when I knew Matt was the correct person for the job, and to bring him on the show when we're you know, it started weeks and weeks and weeks of us talking about Blue Box, and we had all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories about Blue Box, and oh my god, it was a whole thing. So just the very first episode of Blue Box was probably the most memorable episode for me, where we just had so many different conspiracy theories. Oh, what is abandoned? What is this actually supposed to be? Oh,
is it Kojima? Yeah, like I was. That's my answer is the same. That Blue Box spin was just ridiculous in every way, that we kept finding ways to bring it back into the show, even months after, and I still do it now. But that Blue Box era was just a ridiculous ride. But Court, what about you? What was one of your most memorable episodes since you joined?
I don't have a specific episode. Mine is kind of based pretty much on the community. Like, when I first started doing this show, not many people knew me. Like, Ryan knew me, and Matt, you barely even knew me. Like, Ryan knew me from Carpool, and I'd guested on a lot of things, and then I was pretty much like, hey, you're now the host of the PlayStation Drive with Matt. I'm like, okay, all right, that's awesome. But mine was more of the Discord community, and when we all kind of came together, and now I have lifelong friends in Drellesh, Nagachaka, Savoy Prime, like the same people that I talk to on a daily basis, and that we've coined the phrase that this is the only drive, and we're ride and die with that. And that's my favorite thing about the PlayStation Drive.
Yeah, I know. I like the whole running gag now of it being the only drive is, again, one of my favorite things. Like, shout out to Savoy Prime who started that, because it has turned into another thing entirely, and I love it. I'm going to augment this question a little bit. I'm going to ask you both. If you could only play one PlayStation franchise for the rest of your life, which would it be, and why? Josh asked for 5 PlayStation games, but that's a lot. So we're going to do what's one PlayStation franchise that you would play for the rest of your life, and why? Court,
so hold the phone.
Uncharted, because I'm a huge fan of Indiana Jones, and it's Uncharted.
Okay. But here's the thing. It's important context.
Yes.
Because obviously we have to play this forever. Will there be new games made in this franchise going forward?
Well, we can't ask him. He's
If PlayStation makes them, then you're going to be able to play the next one in that franchise. But if PlayStation leaves it dead, no, there's no way to know.
I say Uncharted.
I'm gonna say Infamous. I'm just because I hope there will be. That's just me, projecting in the world that there needs to be more Infamous games.
Yeah, for me, it has to be Spider-Man. Like, I just absolutely love what that series is already. I can't wait for number 2, and I'm sure that this is going to be a long-running franchise moving forward. Give me Spider-Man all the time. If you could buy one non-PlayStation gaming IP from Microsoft or Nintendo, which would you buy, Court? If you could grab an
Diablo.
IP.
I don't even have to think. It's just Diablo. I love it.
They don't own either one of those.
Well, yeah, sorry. I guess they didn't. I guess that didn't go
from
through.
Microsoft or Nintendo.
So then, I guess Doom, because I do like the Doom franchise. It's got a lot of good memories growing up. I played it a lot on PC. So other than that, there's not many, like Super Mario. I don't want the Nintendo franchises coming. I just want them staying there.
Okay. Right.
I truly think if Microsoft or PlayStation had control of Mario Brothers and all that IP, they would ruin it. So, no.
Ryan, what about you?
I'm going to say Metroid, because I feel like I would be really interested to see what a PlayStation studio would do with that franchise, because I think that they could do some really interesting things with Metroid. And I'm actually, again, Metroid is my favorite series of all time. And actually, I like what Nintendo does with it. I love Metroid Dread and, love Metroid Prime. I'm excited for Prime 4. But I'm curious to know what a studio like Guerrilla would do with the Metroid IP. Like, I think that'd be like super interesting.
See, for me, it's Smash Bros. All day, just because PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale was far better than people gave it credit for. We need a new one. If that's one of the live service games, like a lot like Multiverse or something, I am in. I just want Smash Bros. Brought over, done properly with PlayStation IP. Give me All-Stars Battle Royale 2 now, please. And in the spirit of rounding out Drellesh's final question, if you had a meeting with Jim Ryan and he could grant you one wish regarding future hardware or software for the next iteration of the console, PS6, what would you wish for, Ryan? What would be your big Jim Ryan wish?
My big Jim Ryan wish would be that the PlayStation 6 has a disk drive in the console itself, because I'm not sure that it actually will. So
okay.
I want to make sure it's actually there, because I like physical media. I like my 4K Blu-ray collection. I like being able to play that on my PlayStation 5, and I want that to continue.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. Court, what would you ask for,
and
Mr.
for
Big
PS6,
Jim Ryan?
I want a guarantee. I want it to be a standard moving forward that all games have trophy tracking and that they're 4K 120 frames per second. It's not even a little bit of like maybe. It is. This is the PlayStation 6. If you're going to be putting a game on our console, must have trophy tracking and must be 4K 120. There are no more of this releasing games at whatever, so we can all whine and complain about it. Just make it a standard, and if it's doesn't meet that standard, the game doesn't get released.
Okay, I like it. I like the aggressiveness. As for me, I want a guarantee that PSVR 2 will continue to live until PlayStation 6, and past that, I want PlayStation to really kind of properly back their PSVR stuff, just because I really do genuinely believe in the hardware. And again, if we had more first party stuff from them, I think it could be really, really cool. So, Mr. Jim Ryan, give us more PlayStation VR. Savoy Prime asks a spicy question. Let's talk about why Naughty Dog is not the crown jewel of PlayStation Studios, though they are still a great studio because of the Uncharted series. Why is Naughty Dog not the crown jewel of PlayStation Studios, Cord?
Because Ghost of Tsushima is the greatest game that's ever been released on the PlayStation console.
Okay.
Besides The Last of Us Part 1, but like new game right now, I think we have only scratched the surface of what Sucker Punch is going to do with that franchise. And I think the second one that we will, I still stand by we're going to hear about it this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that franchise is going to blow us away. And I think that studio is going to blow us away.
Okay. Ryan, what about you?
I think that Naughty Dog is not the crown jewel of PlayStation because they don't release a big enough variety of games, in the sense that, all their games are very similar to each other, but we've only really gotten, 2 franchises from the Uncharted and Last of Us, and I want to see them do more stuff. Like, I know the team at Naughty Dog is talented, but they don't do enough of different things. Like, I actually think the crown jewel of PlayStation, not knocking at them, is actually Insomniac, because of the variety of games you actually see from Insomniac and how quickly they come out and how awesome all the games actually are. Like, I actually think Insomniac's more the crown jewel to me than Naughty Dog is.
I'm 100% with you, Ryan. That was actually entirely my answer. In terms of output, in terms of pace, in terms of variety, in terms of I think Insomniac has a way of making games fun. And I feel like Naughty Dog is incredible, don't get me wrong. They tell amazing stories and the gameplay is awesome. But Insomniac nails fun in a way that few studios nowadays do. And I can't wait to see what's next from them. Nagachaka asks, what's your favorite thing about recording the PlayStation Drive? And why is it the opportunity to just hang out with a good friend on a weekly basis and to celebrate all things PlayStation? Court, what's your favorite thing?
He's answered this. He gave the answer in the question. Like,
That's
I just have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And honestly, the community is what gets me going. It's the reason I do this. It's the reason last week when I was like, I don't feel like doing anything, but I still wanted to do the show, because everybody I feel like part of a team. And I grew up playing hockey. I grew up playing on a team, and doing the PlayStation Drive with you, Matt, is like being a team. But then we also have those teammates that are in the Discord every week that are great.
I'm with you entirely. Like I love, like, there's some days where you and I will get in, we'll hop on the call, and we're both like, oh my god, I'm so tired. And as soon as the mics come on, and as soon as we see the community rolling through, like, we both get energy from that, and it picks us up. And there's just a beautiful thing here between our relationship and everything that we've grown together over the last little while, and just how fantastic the community is. Ryan, I'm gonna spin the question a bit. What's one of your favorite things since deciding to start the PlayStation Drive? Like, we talked about Blue Box, but like seeing it from initial conception to episode 100 now, how do you feel about its growth? How do you think about how things have changed? What's something that you really like about
it? Honestly, I think you guys have just done an amazing job with the show, and I loved just the way, like, the spin that you've actually put on the show. It's definitely different than what we kind of started out with, and I'm actually glad that it's kind of morphed in now this direction that now everyone's kind of getting behind. Also, just, you know, the PlayStation Drive, I'm just going to come out and say it, you know, despite the fact that I love doing the Xbox Drive and the RPG Cave, I'm actually super jealous of the PlayStation Drive section on the Discord. Like, you guys have done an amazing job kind of building the community for this show and bringing them together. I think it's kind of an amazing thing to see. So, I think that you guys have done an awesome job morphing the show. And I love, you know, Matt's, you know, takes on the news and you know, I love you adding chaos to the show, and I love, you know, the balance that Quartz brings to that. So yeah, I think you guys have done an amazing job in my absence, and honestly, I couldn't have, you know, hoped for any better than what we actually have now with the show.
That makes me so happy inside. We have even more questions, folks. Let's keep it rolling. Brian Eck asks, congratulations on the milestone, guys. Your chemistry and knowledge of all things PlayStation is top notch, and the show is a real highlight of my week. Thanks, Brian. Here's to the next 100. My question is, do you think Sony will eventually take the same approach as Microsoft towards PC? What can we expect to see going forward? Do you think we'll see day one launches across PlayStation and PC? That said, while Sony's PC ports sell at lower prices, players still have to pay twice to get access to the same product. Do you think we can see something like cross-buy? So what do we think is next?
No.
I
think they're going to keep continuing what they're doing. I don't think Sony is changing it. I think they're learning right now with all the literally stepping on rakes over and over again off every release in the last little bit, that they're learning how to do it, but I don't see them day and dating. They want to sell PlayStation consoles. They're putting them on PCs pretty much to shut everybody up. I truly feel that way. If they were going to do that, any of their new releases that they're going to have, that they're going to talk about in this showcase, they would tell us then. But if they have no plans to talk about it, there is no plans to day and date these things, and no way in the world would Sony do cross-buy.
So I actually disagree a little bit with you, Corey, in the sense that I actually don't think that they're doing it to shut people up. I actually think they see the dollar signs that come from Steam, where, you know, whenever one of these PlayStation releases comes to PC, it instantly shoots to the top of the Steam charts.
Oh no, I'm saying they like money, but
oh yeah, definitely. I think it's all motivated by money, which is why I think you might see day and date releases, because this is something Matt and I have talked before about on the PlayStation Drive in the first 50 episodes. I think some of these live service games, if you're going to see any who come to PC day one, it will be those, because then they can have a bigger audience for those, which then leads to more microtransactions being sold. I think that those games in particular are the ones they do this with, but no, absolutely not. I agree with you, Court, that they don't do this with the single player focused games. Like, none of the Naughty Dog upcoming games or Horizon 3, for example, will not be on PC day and date, as an example. I think the live service games have a good chance of being on both day one, but everything else I would say no.
Do you think they might, with that, just snowballing here, when you talk about the live service, that maybe it's the PlayStation Plus app, like Xbox Game Pass, you can get on a PC, that is their goal? They're like, hey, we want this on there, and they're going to do the same thing as Game Pass, but those live service games are the only ones that show up day and date. Otherwise, those PC games eventually show up, just like they do on Game Pass, but maybe that's
it
an
just
angle.
Also depends on the
Get those subscribers
monetization model of those games too, because what if some of these games are free to play? That might be possible too.
What about they're free to play only if they're on the service?
Maybe.
Could be. I think we're going to see a pretty interesting mix of approaches here to see what works for them. I think I think you guys are right. I don't think there's a chance that we see day and date. We may see shorter timelines. It might come down to something like 6 months, but I don't think it would be anything shorter than that. I think the kind of biggest question here is this rumored remote play device that they're talking about. Is that only going to link to PC, to PS5? Are you going to be able to link to PC there as well? Like, I think there are some questions here that we might start to see maybe a discount if you ordered it already. I don't see them doing full out cross-buy, but I'm a little bit curious to see how they roll things out in the next future, because again, they are starting to put their weight behind PC. They just need to do it properly, because again, The Last of Us Part 1 wasn't it. The Muffin Mon, Kevin asks, congrats on 100 episodes, my friends. I want to know, what game this year would you make each other play that the other person isn't currently planning to play? Obviously, my answer for Court would have been Final Fantasy, but we've got him in already. So now I need to think about this. Court, what's a game that you would make Ryan or I play that we're not currently planning on playing?
But we do. So that's a thing. Like his question, we've actually been doing that this year. You played MLB The Show. I'm going to play Final Fantasy and said that I would open my mind to it. I think that is one of the things we do now. To be totally honest, I read this question and I literally will, any game Matt says, hey, give it a try. I do give it a try now. I at least try and play it.
Likewise.
So I think we'll just continue doing that, what we do of, hey, all right, fine, I'll play it. Like it is what it is. I'll give it a try. But you never know, right? You never know unless you try it.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. Ryan, do you have an answer for this?
No, I mean, honestly, you said it, the best way yourself. I would have made Court play Final Fantasy 16, but I know you've already made him do that, so I don't need you. You've done my work for me, Matt.
We got him, folks. We got him.
Yeah.
Jake Steinberg at Jake Knows It asks, I'm going to only ask Court this because Ryan and I already answered this. And it's a similar question you can steal one Nintendo IP for a PlayStation Studios game, Court. Which IP do you take and which studio do you give it to? Ryan and I have already answered this in the previous question. You did not go Nintendo. You said you wanted to leave them be, but now you're being forced. What Nintendo IP is going to PlayStation and who do you give it to?
Well, my favorite IP is Super Mario or Zelda, but like Team Asobi, what they've done is pretty cool. All right, give them Mario. See what they can do. See what they can do with a Mario game. See if they can do what they did with one of the best games that launches on the PS5 still to this day, and put Mario in that world and see what they do.
Team Asobi with Mario is an incredible answer. I'm about it. Kyle Stevenson over at Mr. K-Step says, congrats on 100. 100 PlayStation characters drop on an island. Who forgets to thank the bus driver, Ryan?
Colonel Raddick from Killzone. He's kind of like a gruff dude. He's not a nice person. I don't see him tipping the bus driver. That's not going to happen. So Colonel Raddick from Killzone 2.
Okay.
Delson from Infamous Second Son, because he's struggling. He doesn't have that much money. He's just like an afterthought on everything.
Dude, Evil Delson would never tip that.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, it's so funny because my answer was Cole. I feel he just kind of like grunt at him and jump off the bus. Like I don't see him being like overly friendly as he makes his way off that bus, whether it's good Cole or bad Cole. So it seems like the Infamous franchise not one to thank bus drivers, folks. Our second last question, Steve Vigvari, congrats on 100, Mr. Tech with the Specs. Favorite moments of the past 100 episodes? We've kind of hit on this already. We're talking about Blue Box and talking about the community. But of course, I also really loved our crossover with Console Creatures. And obviously, we're going to be doing that again in the future because they are wonderful folks over there. So, whenever we have, cool folks on the show with us, is always a fun experience. Guys, are you ready for our final question from Josh O'Neill at RealDeal_J O'Neill? He asks, hey guys, congrats on 100 episodes. You both, along with the Carpool team, have been influential in inspiring members of this community to stream and start their own podcasts. What does it mean for you to be a part of a great community? Thank you all for all that you do. Ryan?
Oh, Matt, that was like a brand new question. Well done. That was brand like new. Literally a couple minutes ago.
It wasn't on the sheet.
It was while we were on the show.
Oh, I know.
While we were alive.
Don't worry. I grabbed that. Ryan. Oh, how does it feel? Like you're obviously the OG when it comes to the three of us. You've watched the community grow. You've watched it change. You've watched it blossom as this continues still to be the only drive on the site, which is a little weird. We could probably add some stuff. But
we might want to branch out a little bit. Maybe talk about Nintendo or PlayStation,
like a blue box, like a blue box drive, or like MLB The Show drive. Like obviously staying in the PlayStation realm. But Ryan, how does it feel? What does the community mean to you?
I mean, it means so much to me. And actually, I have to tell this story, and of course, be an old man about it. So back in the day, I was going through some really hard times, kind of in the late 2000s, and it was really podcasts that got me out of it. I was listening to Podcast Beyond with Greg and Colin, which of course was a PlayStation show, which funnily enough, comes kind of full circle. But listening to that show and hearing Greg get questions all the time from people asking how they can do what he does, or how to get it started, or what his journey was like, and hearing him going on some impassioned speeches about, just doing it and just getting out there and just doing what you love, really inspired me to then go out and kind of turn things around for myself and actually go and, pursue the career that I wanted to pursue, which of course was in broadcasting, which then led me to wanting to, it's because of the way podcasts saved me. I really wanted to be able to create a podcast or do things like create content that would inspire people the same way I was inspired all the way back then by Podcast Beyond. And
Beyond.
I've been, doing podcasting now since 2014. So almost 10 years now, which is just crazy to think about. And I really feel like the Carpool community, I really feel like we've kind of finally hit that vision of what I wanted to do, like what I've always to curate with content that I create to inspire people. Where now people, like we see it in our community all the time, where people are meeting each other through our Discord and creating their own content and then posting it in the kind of the community channel section. Like all that stuff is so cool, and I just love that we've been able to curate that creativity in people. So yeah, that's kind of what this community means to me. Like I'm so happy we've been able to foster that. I know it's not just us. Everyone at Carpool has worked, just as hard, if not harder, on bringing this community together and making it as awesome as it is. So yeah, huge shout out to everyone in the community for being amazing, and for this show for also being, an amazing achievement as well.
Well said, Ryan. Well said. Court, what does community mean to you?
Well, it's thanks for having to follow that up. But for me, it's just when we met up with everybody when Bowsah came to town, and I was Fuji. My brain, we're way past the hour.
It is very early in the morning.
No, it's not very early. It's just once I pass the hour, but it was meant a lot because I've had a lot going on in the last little bit, and I get into those, I wouldn't even call them ruts. Just I've had a lot personally going on, and I was very tired. And I was talking to you, and Nagachaka kept going pretty much anytime I'd be like, well, I got this going on. He wouldn't take no for an answer. And then I ended up having such a great time. And I always have that as well. I had a lot going on for me personally this weekend. And when I reached out to you guys and was like, hey, I can't make it, and here's why. It wasn't like, oh, figure it out. It was, okay, yeah, cool. And no pressure the last couple of days to even show up in the streams. And I showed up yesterday, and I didn't have to go on camera like everybody else, but everybody was just so welcoming. I played Fall Guys yesterday. That is not a game I would play ever, but I had fun doing it. Kevin whooped the living daylights out of me over and over again, but I had a lot of fun. But I've made so many friends. I know that Kevin and we have exact opposites in video game choices, but I know if I ever saw him in the streets that I would probably sit down, have a drink with the guy, and hang out with him for the rest of the day. It's just, I feel that way with everybody in the community. Drellesh, I talked to for pretty much had a therapy session with him yesterday, live on air. I talked to Sean, I talked to Ryan, I talked to you. I've made so many friends out of this community, and that just warms my heart because as much as I'm a jock, I've been a nerd jock, and it was very hard fitting in for me growing up because none of my friends really liked playing video games. And I feel like I finally found a place where I fit in.
I think that's beautifully said, dude. I think this community is something that's very, very special. For myself, podcast similar to you, Ryan, I was in a really rough place earlier on in life. Back in 2016, I was in a car accident that left me messed up for quite a while, and that I still feel the ramifications of today. And it was the Kind of Funny crew that really got me through that first while. And it was I was in bed, and I couldn't even turn the lights on because I had blistering migraines, and it was just their voices that kind of kept me company. And when we started Burnout and when I joined here, it was always the goal of my whole thing has always been if I can reach one person, if I can make one person's day at least a little bit better, then mission accomplished. And to step into this community, to be fortunate enough, Ryan, to be selected by you back in the day when you were first starting this up, I genuinely think that was one of my luckiest moments that I've had in my life so far, because I never would have stepped into this community the way that I have. And just genuinely, even setting up the community PlayStation Drive with Nagachaka and Drellesh, and just seeing how much the community backs us and supports us, and how much we're there for each other as a team, I think is something so special and isn't something that happens everywhere. So all the love in the world to this community, and I feel so grateful to be a part of it and to be a part of the show, and to really, really be the only drive here on Carpool Gaming. It's a huge, it's something that's very important to me. But that, my friends, brings us to the end of the show. Once again, we'll have a Twitter post later today for the Final Fantasy 16 giveaway. Go hop over there, show us those 5 stars or those reviews to get entered to win. And before we go, I have to ask one last time, as is tradition, as is always, Ryan, if people wanted to see and hear more from you, where could they do so?
Well, first off, huge thank you to both of you for inviting me on the show today. I really appreciate it being on here to celebrate 100 episodes of The Only Drive on Carpool Gaming. Of course, you can find me over on Twitter at Ryan Turford. So go check us out over there. And of course, check out, but they're not drives, Carpool RPG Cave, which is our role-playing game podcast. And then, of course, Pit Stop Retro Gaming. You can check us out over there. Also, there's this little thing called the Xbox Drive over there, too. So check us out.
And that Nintendo Drive thing, but whatever.
Again, these were just shows I'm on. I'm not on Nintendo.
Yeah, fair enough.
Court, what about you? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Courtlawn, talking to people like our ultimate producer, Robbie Bobby Miller. You can support him at, I got you, Matt. See, I had to try something
Go for
different.
It. Do it.
You can follow him at twitch.tv/Robbie Bobby Miller, or you can check out Tony Baker at youtube.com/Quest4Pixels, and Mr. Jonathan Brown. You can check him out on his Linktree/PME.jib and his brand new album Video Game Boy, and Mr. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive, and RIT. You can find him at www.phoenixoverdrive.com. Our platinum producers, Mr. Markus McCracken, RJ Kern, our gold members, Anna, BobLoblaw, Bowsah, Cecily Carrozza, Dannohh, Drellesh, Emily O'Kelly, Fulish Fuji, Hoppel, Jonas Young, Jose Jimenez, Marcus O'Neill, Tim Alpa, and Tim Paullin. Thank you to you people for this show.
Thank you so much to our wonderful community. Thank you for your support over the weekend at Carpool Gaming Days. Make sure you stay strapped in because there's much more to come in the future. You can find me on Twitter at Matt_SilverSoul, and we'll be back for 101 next week. We'll see you then. Peace.
Good day, everybody.